So in terms of this, I just want to talk about that smallest scale one I showed for a second, because it's a prototype that might be very interesting to you here in Lexington. What the International Code says is that if you build something that's housing that's 3 stories, as long as the ground floor is wheelchair accessible, that does not need an elevator. When it goes taller than that, it needs an elevator. And when you build 1 elevator, you build 2, and then you need a corridor, and then you need fire stairs, and the whole thing turns into a much bigger building. And so that 3-story thing is very interesting to us. And there's a different research project where we got asked, well, what could be in between that's a net zero, potentially net zero housing module between a net zero single family house, which we have the technology to do today. There are probably some outside of Lexington today. And a big apartment building, which is very, very hard to make net zero because of all the occupants. And we found that there's the scale, and actually when Brittany and I were driving around, we saw something out near the Distillery District that is exactly the scale. By the way, this is where to put the solar panels. You really went on about that. Like, this is very important to you, clearly. What's interesting about the solar panels? So why is this operationally net zero? Not embodied energy, that's a different topic for the people who geek out on this stuff. But operationally, those solar panels in most sunny climates, to include Lexington, generate more power than the residents need. It could actually throw energy back into the grid, which is extraordinary if you think about it. And what's interesting is, because it's a single story, it's what's called a single stair module, you could build pretty gracious apartments. I mean, for New York, certainly gracious at about 1,000 square feet, ground floor retail, wheelchair accessible units. And you could do this all without an elevator, without concrete, which means that the construction cost could be very, very low. This is basically the same construction technology as a single family house. So when developers tell you they can't build urban density because it's too expensive, you can show them this. And you can explain that you actually can build urban density at a fairly low cost per square foot, but most importantly, you can house a lot more people. And on that single stair, you can build community. If you haven't seen an elderly neighbor for a while, you know, because that elderly neighbor would use that stair. You absolutely have that connection. It's actually the way we built a lot of urban density all around the world in the early 1900s. And so that's 330 housing units on the left, on the right, and in the middle. And what you understand about that is, in the middle, that's 3 stories. It's the same height as a lot of single family homes. That you can build urban space with it. It's a building block. So it's not just about the architecture. It's about what space it can form around it as fabric. And so you can use it as infill or courtyards. You can build it as transit-oriented density near train stations. And so I'm going to close with this just last couple of thoughts. The book is called Architecture of Urbanity, Designing for Nature and Culture and Joy. I firmly believe this, that if you build this thing that I've kind of described as connective design, that creates this idea of positive friction, of this idea that we see difference eyeball to eyeball, and we grow, and we get better because of it. And that we can then deal with our climate crisis, we can deal with our pluralism crisis, and we can have joy in the places that we live in. And you know, you can say, well, 3-story housing, really, what difference would that make? If we all lived in that module, even at a world where I started of 10.4 billion people, we would use less than 1/2% of the land on the planet to live on, leaving the rest for agriculture, nature, and ocean.